Hello everyone, we're Group 4 and we're here to discuss our topic entitled Rizal as a Linguist. But before we start, I would like to introduce myself as well as my group mates. Hi, I am Renza Ivan Molina and this is Julian Ausa, Ryan Philippe Encomienda, Marin Plopeño, and Catherine Ramos, who will serve as your tour guides for today's presentation.
Dr. Jose Rizal once said that man is multiplied by the number of languages he possesses and speaks, and he proved that he is the epitome of this ideology. Jose Rizal had a passion for the study of languages. As a linguist, Jose Rizal learned multiple languages throughout his life and he had made various contributions to our language. In this presentation, our group is tasked to further discuss Dr. Jose Rizal and his role as a linguist. We will specifically tackle his life in Dapitan as a linguist, the 22 languages he knows, evidence on how and where he learned multiple languages, and lastly, Rizal's linguistic legacy, where we will discuss his reforms in the Tagalog system and its orthography.
Rizal as linguist in Dapitan. We know that Dr. Jose Rizal is educated in 22 languages, but did you know that he learned the last 3 languages he knows in Dapitan? During his exile, July 17, 1892, he studied 3 languages, namely Visayan, Subanun, and Malay languages. It's extraordinary that he learned 3 languages in just 4 years. Ordinary people could not learn a language as fast as he does. Yes, you can learn a language, but not in such a short period of time. Rizal has a retentive memory which enables him to remember things very well, allowing him to learn multiple languages and multiple words faster than the other people. Every night, Rizal memorized 5 words. As a result, he knows 1,825 words per year. He puts his knowledge in using it whenever he travels, especially to other countries. He is sometimes the tour guide with his friends. So it's not surprising that by the time his exile ended on July 31, 1896, Rizal had distinguished as one of the world's greatest linguists, because it is extremely unusual for a person to be fluent in 22 languages.
Jose Rizal was also known as a polyglot. So, what exactly is a polyglot? A polyglot is a person who can understand and is able to use several languages. Jose Rizal was fluent in 22 different languages. These 22 languages are Spanish, French, Latin, Greek, German, Portuguese, Italian, English, Dutch, Japanese, Arabic, Swedish, Russian, Chinese, Greek, Hebrew, and Sanskrit, and the local languages such as Malay, Chavacano, Visayan, Ilocano, and Subanun. He had the ability to switch from one language to another when he was writing. It is said that during his childhood, Leon Monroy, one of the 3 of Jose Rizal's private tutors, taught him Spanish and Latin. In Ateneo de Manila, he learned Latin and ancient Greek before going to the University of Santo Tomas. In his journey and travels to different countries, he learned multiple languages during his stay in those respective countries. During his exile in Dapitan, he learned Visayan, Subanun, and Malay.
In order to prove Rizal's linguistic skills, I will be discussing 2 of these literary works that will show how he was indeed a linguist. A La Juventud Filipina, to the Philippine Youth, was written in the year 1879 when he was 18 years old and was studying at the University of Santo Tomas. It is a Spanish poem that talks about the importance of loving and appreciating language, with the message of how we as the Filipino youth have the duty to serve our countrymen to our fullest by harnessing our skills and talents. Furthermore, we must also take initiative to help our country develop for the better with our individual contributions. He wrote this poem because he wanted to spread awareness about the importance of one's appreciation and love for his dialect or language, because he believes that it is a bridge that connects every person in different countries with one another. This was able to showcase Rizal's skills in linguistics, as this particular poem was awarded first place in a literary contest held in Liceo Artístico Literario de Manila, which is a society of literary men and artists, and among all of those skilled participants, his work was recognized as the best. El Consejo de los Dioses, The Council of the Gods. It was written when he was 19 or 20 years old. in the year 1880 in Manila. It is a play that was also written in Spanish, and it uncovers some relative aspects about the social components of Western humanistic viewpoint that human beings have the right, capacity, and responsibility to give meaning and shape to their own lives into a literary context and in viewpoint of the Philippine culture. Similar to the previous literary work discussed, the play also won the first prize award in an 1880 to 1881 literary contest commemorating the death of Cervantes sponsored by the Liceo Artístico Literario de Manila.
So aside from the Spanish language, we can still show proof of Rizal's actual usage of other languages that he knew. For now, we will tackle the Japanese language. So first, Rizal was clearly unable to communicate effectively in Japanese when he first arrived in Japan. This is reflected in the fact that he needed an interpreter to introduce himself to Osei-san or Miss Seiko Usui, a Japanese lady who later became his girlfriend. Though Rizal spoke Nihongo poorly, Seiko knew how to speak English, so they were able to share a tongue. Since then, they got together almost daily, revealing the city sights. Next, the fact that Rizal couldn't speak Japanese bothered him. Aside from this reason, he also got bothered because he looked like a Japanese. His Japanese appearance made it difficult for natives to detect that he was a Gaikokajin or in English, a foreigner. This thought was mentioned in his letter to Blumentritt. He stated that people stare at him and ill-bred boys laugh at him because he speaks so strange a language. Furthermore, some think he is a Europeanized Japanese who does not want to be taken as such. Next, Rizal wanted to study the condition of the various Japanese classes. This is where he realized that for him to have a deeper understanding of Japanese society, he had to learn their language. With his natural flair for languages and through the help of his girlfriend, Osei-san, he was able to considerably improve his Japanese skills.
He was able to express himself in Japanese in just a month of study. This just showed how great Rizal is because most people would have only just begun to learn their kore, sore, are in this short period. Rizal learned enough to enjoyable understand kabuki like Shushigura Sendai Hagi and Manjiro Nakahama in Tokyo Shinto Misa Theater. He writes a few ideas in kanji and those characters are evident in his sketch of the well-known scene from Sendai Hagi where Nurse Masuaka cries over her son's seppuku. Rizal acted as interpreter of a Japanese journalist until they reached London. He was acquainted with the said journalist who was going to Europe. In addition to its description, this journalist knew no other language than his own. That's why Rizal acted as his interpreter. From this situation, Rizal was able to make use of the Japanese language that he studied.
Proof that Rizal used the English language. Rizal had told some foreign acquaintances in Europe that he had begun to study English seriously. Rizal didn't write professionally in English. He was adequately proficient in using it at least for personal correspondence with friends who were conversant in English. At some point, Rizal wrote a letter in beautiful longhand in three languages: German, English, and French, to express his condolences to his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt. Overall, though, Rizal was definitely above average in his written English. His facility with written English could put many of us to shame considering that he was essentially self-taught in English, while we are formally taught English grammar and usage from grade school onwards. When his family came to see him, he asked pardon from his mother and talked to his sisters as they entered his cell one by one. He also wrote letters. In his last letter, addressed to Pasiano Rizal, he asked his brother to ask their father for forgiveness for all the pain he had caused him. To his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, he wrote, "When you receive this letter, I shall be dead by then. Tomorrow at 7, I shall be shot. But I am innocent of the crime of rebellion. I am going to die with a tranquil conscience. Rizal's linguistic legacy. Reforms in Tagalog sound system and Tagalog writing system. Orthography. Rizal was not a malansang isda or stinking fish who neglected his own language. He worked to enrich Tagalog literature and to make it more accessible to ordinary people. He also recognized the importance of increasing literacy by many ordinary Filipinos. After reading an 1884 essay by Trinidad Pardo de Tavera about the pre-colonial Baybayin writing system, Rizal came up with the idea of devising better ways to spell Tagalog words using the current alphabet. Rizal wrote in an article published in La Solidaridad in April 1890. It occurred to me to do something to lighten the work and make the first attempts of children to learn easier by simplifying the orthography or spelling, introducing another more rational and logical or method which would be in harmony with the spirit of the language itself and its sister languages. Tagalog spelling followed the Spanish alphabet standards. At the time, Tagalog spelling followed the Spanish alphabet standards, which do not apply the letters K and W, except in the borrowed foreign words. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku were spelled Ca, Ce, Ci, Co, Cu. In Rizal's 1890 article, the word katay was used as an example to butcher used to be katay spelled in letter C. The G syllables presented similar challenges. The letters ga, ge, gi, go, gu, and gu were spelled Ga, Gue, Gui, Go, and Gu, respectively. In sentences like general, Rizal preferred to use the letter H instead of the letter U to represent the aspirated Spanish G. Rizal advocated for the rejection of the irregular Hispanic spelling conventions for Tagalog in 1890, in which similar consistent sounds were represented by a variety of different letters depending on their neighboring vowels. According to the Spanish spelling system, the sound K can be represented by a C or a QU, the sound S by a S or a C, the sound H by H, G or J, the sound W by a O or a U, and the sound Y by a Y or a I. The sound I was represented by L or E, and the sound U was represented by O or U. Rizal was an undeniably talented translator of German into Tagalog, and his letters and diaries are littered with language changes, but he was also eager to admit his own linguistic limitations. Results published language studies accounts for only a minor percentage of his whole work. He employed linguistic analysis to bolster assumptions about past Malay migrations and to push revisionist historical arguments in his political publications. Results accurate inventory of Tagalog phonemes as well as his implementation of a feature-based Tagalog orthography were both pioneering and contentious.
Everybody wasn't pleased in Rizal's proposal to drop the letters C and Q in favor of K. Some people accused him of being unpatriotic because the letter K was allegedly a German letter. During that time, Germany and Spain were feuding over the Caroline group of islands east of the Philippines. However, Rizal was not alone in his struggle. Two of his contemporaries were formulating their own ideas for Tagalog spelling at the same time that he did, and they went even further in their reforms. So, who are those? They are Trinidad Pardo Teta Vera and Pedro Serrano Lactao. Tavera was the first to use the English form of the W in Tagalog writing in his 1887 essay Sanskrit in the Tagalog language, while Lactau might have been the first to use the K according to Austin Craig. In 1889, Lactau published his Hispano-Tagalog Dictionary, which included the K and W, as well as the changing the spelling of his name from Lactau with an O to Lactau with the W. As their supporter, Rizal called their method a more perfect orthography and gave them full credits for their ideas. Next, the addition of the letter W helped to simplify spelling. In the old spelling, the sound of W was represented by either O or U, but in no particularly logical way. For example, the word awa with the W was spelled as awa with a U. Another, the word arrow with a W was spelled as arrow with an O. Next, Rizal and Tavera proposed that the letter G should be used alone with a tilde above it to indicate the tongue sound. They've thought of this to reduce the complicated combination of characters to just one letter. For example, magulang should be spelled as magulag with a tilde above the G if this idea will be followed. As we can see, this innovation is not used right now, therefore it didn't succeed before. Next, the way we spell Filipino words is the most tangible component of Rizal's legacy, and it continues to have an impact on Filipinos' lives. Before, Mariano Ponce and Marcelo H. Del Pilar, both members of the propaganda movement, rapidly adopted the new spelling. Also, the so-called foreign letter K became a powerful symbol of a national and distinctly Filipino identity. This letter is prominent in the Katipunan's name, their newspaper, and their flags. Now, we are still using the reforms that Rizal made in writing, pronouncing, and spelling certain letters. My takeaway here is no hurdle is high enough to stop someone persistent in his goals. Rizal received criticisms for his works and how he speaks, but instead of being down of those, he chose to continue and be better. If he stopped due to getting drowned in the criticisms, our Tagalog literature wouldn't be enriched. The spellings we're using now would not exist in the first place. Another, if he stopped, he wasn't able to help someone with the knowledge he worked hard to gain in the Japanese language. Therefore, we shouldn't let the spark that just ignited in our hearts fade.
The most important thing I took away from this topic was that we should never be hesitant to try new things. Rizal was criticized for his writings and the way he spoke, but instead of being discouraged, he chose to persevere and improve. Furthermore, I like researching our topic, and Rizal's experience as a linguist has taught me that we, as Filipino people, should always strive to improve ourselves and not be scared to develop our abilities and talents. Let us challenge ourselves out of our boundaries to be courageous and seek to improve our use ideas.
While preparing for this task, I was able to appreciate Rizal even more. I also enjoyed researching about our topic, and Rizal as a linguist has taught me how we, as the Filipino youth, should always try and enhance ourselves and to not be afraid of developing our skills and talents. Just like what Rizal has done in the past, where he has won first place in different literary contests, he was able to show everyone that despite being a Filipino at that time, he can keep up and even excel in the things that he does best. And I personally should at least use this as my inspiration to push my limits to further develop into someone who can keep up with the constantly changing world.
What I learned from this topic was that we should never be afraid of learning new things. When I found out that Rizal can speak and understand 22 languages, I was overwhelmed but not surprised. Knowledge is power, and it brings us wisdom. Rizal's never-ending acquisition of knowledge shaped who he is and who he was. Thanks to his intelligence, he was able to fight for our country and our people without blood on his hands. As Filipinos, we should strive to become like Jose Rizal. Let us step out of our comfort zones, be brave, and further educate ourselves with new things.
I got to know Rizal more as a linguist throughout our groupings. Because of him, I developed an appreciation for various languages and their significance. As a result of these groupings, I was motivated to continue my learning in Nihongo or the Japanese language. We should not be hesitant to try new things or to step beyond our comfort zone. Let us not become comfortable with the knowledge that we know. We need to expand our knowledge. We need to push ourselves even harder in order to improve much more because our knowledge reflects the kind of person we are. Like Rizal, we should not be discouraged if there is a situation where no one seems to believe us. This should serve as motivation for us to keep going and to prove to them that we can do it. We must always remember that not everyone will like us, thus, we must persist like Rizal did.